Have you ever, been in the middle of a conversation and you confidently start a sentence, but then suddenly your brain just completely wipes itself blank?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You're just standing there, looking at the other person, and there's nothing but absolute radio silence in your head.
It is genuinely terrifying. I mean, the internal panic sets in almost instantly, right?
Right, exactly.
You realize the silence is stretching on for just a second too long, and all you can manage to force out of your mouth is this long, agonizing, or the classic, wait, how do I say this?
Yeah, it's like your internal hard drive just suffered a catastrophic crash.
Exactly.
And if your brain has ever completely flatlined mid-sentence like that, you are definitely not alone. So, welcome to today's deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're giving you, the dedicated learner who just wants the knowledge without the fluff, the exact neurological shortcut to bypass that verbal buffering wheel. We're unlocking the mechanics of how to speak fluently without those awkward pauses or terrifying brain freezes.
Yeah, and to guide this exploration, we're looking at a really fantastic instructional script called Mastering Fluent English: Strategies for Speaking Without Pauses. It's designed by two guides, Emily and David, and it is technically built for people learning English as a second language.
Right, that is the crucial context here. But, the psychology behind overcoming that dreaded is a completely universal light bulb moment.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the mechanics apply to anyone who has ever stumbled over their words in a high-stakes board meeting or, on a first date, or even just trying to land the punchline of a story at a noisy dinner party.
For sure.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll have actionable, everyday tricks to communicate with smooth, unshakable confidence, regardless of the language you're speaking.
Because whether you're navigating a new language or just trying to articulate a complex idea clearly in your native tongue, the root cause of that brain freeze is almost always the same.
Really?
People tend to blame their vocabulary. They think, I just don't know enough words, or I'm just a bad public speaker.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah, but the reality is a specific mental trap that you're unknowingly setting for yourself.
The translation trap.
Exactly, the translation trap.
Right. So in the context of language learning, Emily and David map this out brilliantly. They point out that learners pause so frequently because they're attempting to translate every single sentence from their first language into English in real time, right as they're opening their mouths to speak.
Yeah, and they use an analogy that really anchors how impossible this task is. They compare translating in your head while speaking to driving a car down a busy highway while simultaneously trying to read the manufacturer's instruction manual.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that sounds like a disaster.
It is. You simply cannot navigate the road and watch for unpredictable traffic and steer the wheel if your eyes are glued to a dense diagram of how the transmission operates.
Right.
Your brain is attempting to execute too many high-level tasks at once. You are holding the abstract concept, translating it, running it through a complex filter of grammatical rules, and frantically flipping through a mental dictionary for the perfect vocabulary word.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to make sure we see how this happens in native speakers too, just in a slightly different flavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like your brain is a smartphone trying to run a graphically intense, really heavy video game and render a massive 4K movie at the exact same time.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. The CPU just maxes out, the fan starts spinning, the battery drains, the entire operating system freezes up, and the result is that horrible verbal buffering wheel.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of cognitive overload.
Right.
Human working memory is strictly limited. Cognitive science tells us we can only hold and process a very small number of items, roughly 4 to 7 pieces of information, in our active working memory at any given second.
Only 4 to 7.
Yeah, just 4 to 7. So when you force your brain to perform the high-level executive function of real-time translation, or, for a native speaker, overanalyzing the exact phrasing to sound artificially impressive, you create a massive mental bottleneck.
Because you're using up all those slots.
Exactly. The cognitive load far exceeds your brain's available processing bandwidth.
And when that processing bandwidth runs out, the natural flow of communication doesn't just slow down, it completely shatters.
It shatters, yeah, and it triggers a physiological response too.
Really, like a physical reaction.
Yeah. What follows the cognitive bottleneck is actual biological panic. The moment you realize your speech has stalled, your amygdala, which is the fear and emotion center of your brain, it just lights up.
Oh, wow.
Evolutionary biology wires us to view social failure or standing out awkwardly as a literal threat to our survival in the group. So now, you aren't just processing language, you are actively managing a fight-or-flight stress response.
So you're basically in survival mode over a sentence.
Basically, yeah. Your heart rate might tick up slightly, your focus narrows.
Yeah.
This virtually guarantees you will stumble, you lose the thread entirely and rely on filler words because your brain is desperately throwing out just to buy time for the executive function to catch back up.
Okay, so the mental CPU is overheating, so the logical solution is that we have to reduce the background applications. Right? We have to strip away the complexity entirely.
Exactly. We prioritize clarity over complexity, which is, well, it's often much harder than it sounds.
Right.
Emily and David include a great mini quiz to illustrate the cognitive cost of our word choices. They ask you to evaluate 2 sentences. Sentence A is, I would appreciate your assistance, and sentence B is, can you help me?
Well, can you help me is infinitely more direct.
It is. And more importantly, it takes a fraction of the cognitive energy to produce.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Consider another comparison. Imagine trying to formulate the sentence, I am currently participating in an educational English program.
It's a mouthful.
Right. By the time your brain maps out the syntax, conjugates the verbs, and double-checks the formality of that sentence, the conversation has already moved on without you.
You're just left behind.
Exactly. Instead, saying I'm learning English carries the exact same meaning, but is incredibly lightweight for the brain to process.
It's lightweight for the speaker, and honestly, it's much easier for the listener to digest, too.
Absolutely.
And to make this lightweight communication a habit, Emily and David introduce a framework called speaking chunks.
Yeah, speaking chunks are arguably the most effective tool for bypassing the translation trap. They are essentially small, memorized groups of words that native speakers use repeatedly on a daily basis. They're pre-packaged linguistic units.
So instead of building every single sentence word by word from scratch, agonizing over the grammar like you're laying individual bricks in a wall, you just grab a whole pre-made section of the wall and slot it into place.
That is the perfect way to visualize it, yeah.
Right.
Some common examples of these chunks are phrases like, I think, or to be honest, or actually, or even, it depends.
Yeah, and they showcase a role play where David is put on the spot and asked about his favorite food. And instead of freezing up trying to construct a complex, grammatically flawless thesis on his culinary preferences, he effortlessly leans on these chunks. He says, actually, I'd say pizza, because it's easy to find. And to be honest, I love cheese.
And the flow is incredibly natural.
Very natural.
He didn't use a single piece of advanced vocabulary, but the chunks function as a bridge, keeping the conversation's momentum alive. These phrases act as cognitive resting points.
Cognitive resting points, I like that.
Yeah, when you start a sentence with, to be honest, you already know those 3 words by heart. Your brain goes on autopilot for a full second, which gives your working memory the free space it needs to formulate the next simple idea.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little.
Yeah.
Because if you're relying heavily on these simple sentences and basic chunks, always starting with I think or actually, and using very basic vocabulary, don't you risk sounding less professional? Or maybe even a bit childish to the person listening?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to examine how human beings naturally acquire and use language and how competence is actually perceived.
Okay.
Emily and David bring up a fantastic revelation about children. Kids speak fluently without stopping. They don't pause to say every 3 words.
True, they just babble away.
Right, and it certainly isn't because they possess a 10,000-word vocabulary or have a deep understanding of complex grammar.
I hear that, but kids are held to a different standard. They just know words like juice and play. Adults judge other adults differently. Like in a corporate environment, doesn't a sophisticated vocabulary directly equal status and expertise?
That is the illusion of complexity.
The illusion.
Yeah, we assume big words make us look smart, but think about the psychology of the listener. When an adult uses simple language smoothly, they project far more authority and competence than someone who uses complex, jargon-heavy language but delivers it haltingly.
Oh, I see.
Children speak fluently because they rely on implicit learning. They recognize patterns and chunks, and they use the familiar words they do know quickly and confidently. Adults stumble because they rely on explicit rule learning. They try to apply rigid grammatical formulas in real time.
Right, like they're doing math in their head.
Exactly. True fluency isn't about knowing the absolute most words. It is about mastering the rapid retrieval of the familiar ones.
It's not the size of the database, it's the retrieval speed. If you are smooth, People perceive you as an expert, even if you're using 8th grade vocabulary.
Yes, that retrieval speed is the core of perceived competence, and that leads directly into how we physically deliver those words once we've simplified our mental load.
Which brings us to a massive misconception that almost everyone holds. We tend to equate fluency with speed.
We really do.
We think that to sound like a native speaker or to sound like a high-level executive, we need to talk at a million miles an hour.
But the illusion of speed is a dangerous trap. Emily and David explicitly address this, pointing out that fast absolutely does not equal fluent. Right.
Running your words together in a panic actually makes you incredibly difficult to understand, and it heightens the chance of a cognitive crash.
Like the example they give of saying, I went to the store and I bought some fruit all in one breathless rush.
Exactly. It's chaotic.
It really is. Instead, the mantra they emphasize is a complete game changer. Slow is smooth. Smooth becomes fast with practice.
And that is a principle deeply rooted in neurobiology, used in everything from elite military training to martial arts to playing a musical instrument.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when you deliberately slow down your physical speech, you give your brain the literal milliseconds it needs to process the simple chunks we just talked about.
Wow.
From a neurological standpoint, you are allowing the myelin sheaths, which are the protective coating around your neural pathways, to form correctly. You're building clean, efficient highways for information to travel rather than chaotic, frantic dirt roads.
There is a highly relatable, honestly pretty funny story from the material about David making this exact mistake before he learned that lesson.
Oh, yes, the interview story. Yeah, he was in a job interview, conducting it in his second language, and he made the conscious decision to speak incredibly fast to prove to the interviewer just how fluent he was.
He essentially overclocked his brain's processor, which is the perfect recipe for that mental CPU crash we talked about earlier.
He went entirely blank halfway through his sentence, a complete, devastating buffering wheel in the middle of a job interview.
A nightmare scenario.
But instead of letting the amygdala hijack take over and spiraling into panic, he just laughed and said, "Sorry, my English is running faster than my brain."
And the interviewer laughed, the tension broke, and David actually ended up getting the job.
That's amazing.
It's a wonderful case study because it highlights a fundamental truth about human interaction. People don't actually expect robotic, flawless perfection. They crave clear, authentic human connection.
Right.
By laughing and owning his pause, he demonstrated deep conversational competence and emotional intelligence, even though his grammar engine temporarily stalled.
That ties beautifully into their next crucial tactic, which is how to handle silence. We are so terrified of dead air in modern communication. We view silence as a failure.
We really do, yeah.
But native speakers and highly confident speakers pause constantly. The defining difference is that they do it calmly.
Silence is not the enemy of fluency. Panic is the enemy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I like to think of this calm pause through the lens of music.
Okay, tell me more.
It's like a musician playing a rest in a piece of sheet music.
Yeah.
The silence isn't a mistake. It isn't a gap where the music failed or the performer forgot the notes.
Right.
It's an intentional, structured part of the composition that gives the actual notes the room they need to breathe and resonate.
That analogy captures the mechanics perfectly. In speech, a calm 1-second pause functions exactly like that musical rest. It adds rhythm, pacing, and gravity to your words. When you pause silently, it actually projects immense authority. It subconsciously signals to the listener, I am considering my words carefully, I am comfortable in this space, and I am in total control of this exchange.
Whereas filling that exact same gap with a frantic or signals the polar opposite, it broadcasts insecurity and signals to the listener that you are drowning in your own thoughts.
Exactly. Taking a breath in silence demonstrates you are managing your cognitive load gracefully. Filling the silence with verbal static shows the cognitive load is managing you. It activates the listener's own stress response because they can sense your panic.
Okay, so we have a solid theoretical foundation now. We know we need to bypass the translation bottleneck, rely on simple prepackaged chunks, aggressively slow down our delivery, and embrace the musical rest.
Right.
But how do we actually wire these behavioral changes into our nervous system? How do we take this from an interesting concept we heard on a deep dive and make it an automatic reflex when we are in a real nerve-wracking conversation?
Well, it comes down to building the muscle memory. And Emily and David are intensely pragmatic about this phase. You do not need to lock yourself in a library and study grammar textbooks for 3 hours.
Thank goodness.
Right. The requirement to build these pathways is shockingly small. It's just 5 to 10 minutes a day of deliberate practice.
Because consistency completely obliterates those marathon cram session study binges when it comes to skill acquisition.
From a biological perspective, absolutely. You are attempting to build new neural pathways, new highways for your brain to retrieve words without going through the translation bottleneck.
Okay.
Firing those specific pathways for 5 minutes every single day keeps them warm, active, and encourages synaptic growth. Firing them for 3 hours on a Sunday and ignoring them for the next 6 days lets those connections wither and go cold.
So what are we actually doing during those 5 minutes? The suggested exercises are highly practical, if somewhat doofy. They recommend simply describing your physical environment out loud, talk about the layout of your living room, or explain the steps of making your breakfast as you're doing it.
Yeah, and the critical component is speaking out loud. This isn't a mental exercise.
You can't just think it.
Right, you can't just think it. It's about training the physical muscles of articulation, your tongue, your jaw, your vocal cords, alongside those new cognitive pathways.
They even offer this humorous piece of advice where they highly encourage talking to your pets.
I love that part.
Why? Because a golden retriever never judges your grammar. Even if the cat sits there looking at you like you have lost your mind, they aren't going to interrupt and correct your syntax.
It sounds trivial, but it works brilliantly because of how it tricks the brain. It completely removes the social anxiety that triggers the amygdala.
Oh, right, the panic response.
Exactly. You are practicing the physical act of speaking without the threat of social rejection, allowing your working memory to operate at full capacity.
They also outline a 30-second challenge that seems incredibly effective. You pick a random topic like a hobby, and you force yourself to talk about it out loud for 30 straight seconds without stopping.
The rules are strict on that one.
Very strict. If you forget a specific word, you don't stall out and search for it. You force yourself to describe the concept using other words. If you make a glaring grammatical mistake, you ignore it entirely and keep moving forward.
It trains the brain to prioritize conversational momentum over grammatical perfection. You are teaching your mind how to creatively route around obstacles rather than crashing into them.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? I have to play devil's advocate again for a second.
Go for it.
Is narrating my morning routine to my golden retriever or doing a 30-second drill in my kitchen genuinely going to prepare me for a high-stakes, real-life scenario? Like, how does talking to a dog translate to a boardroom presentation or a crucial salary negotiation?
This raises an important question about the psychology of stress inoculation and how confidence is constructed over time.
Oh.
Yes, talking to your dog prepares you for the boardroom.
Really?
Really. By engaging in low-stakes, consistent daily verbalization, you are participating in a form of exposure therapy.
Oh, that makes sense.
You are removing the paralyzing fear of making mistakes. You are training your nervous system that the act of continuous speaking is a safe baseline state, not an emergency.
Oh, I see. So when you eventually step into that high-stakes boardroom, your brain recognizes the physical action of speaking as a routine, deeply ingrained habit rather than an immediate twist that requires an adrenaline spike.
That is the exact mechanism at play. There is a profound, debilitating trap that many intelligent people fall into, which is the belief that they must wait until their language skills or their pitch or their idea is completely perfect before they open their mouths to start speaking.
Waiting is a trap.
Waiting is absolutely a trap.
Because the act of speaking is what creates the fluency.
Exactly. Speaking creates the fluency. Waiting just breeds more anxiety and solidifies the fear of failure.
Right.
As Emily and David emphasize, every single confident speaker you admire was once a stumbling beginner. Every smooth, brilliant, captivating conversation you have ever witnessed started with someone who used to make a massive amount of mistakes.
You have to willingly push through the messy, awkward phase to earn the smooth phase.
Yeah, it circles right back to the story about David in the job interview. You have to be willing to stumble, laugh out loud at yourself when your brain outruns your mouth, and just keep pushing forward.
Human connection and clear communication are vastly more important than displaying a flawless vocabulary.
People want to understand your ideas and connect with your humanity. They do not need you to be a flawless walking dictionary.
Let's wrap this up and consolidate the toolkit we've unpacked today. You now have a core set of strategies to fundamentally change how you process and deliver communication, whether you are tackling a second language or mastering your native one.
So true.
First, stop translating in real time. Whether that means translating from Spanish to English or translating complex abstract thoughts into impressive corporate jargon. Let go of the heavy processing.
Second, heavily rely on simple speaking chunks. Utilize those familiar prepackaged phrases to give your working memory a rest and keep the conversational momentum flowing.
Third, slow your pace down. Remember the neurobiological rule, slow is smooth, and smooth eventually becomes fast.
Fourth, embrace the calm pause. Treat silence like a necessary musical rest that adds gravity and authority, instead of an empty void you have to frantically fill with ums and rantus.
And finally, build the muscle memory. Practice out loud for just 5 to 10 minutes a day, even if it's just explaining to your cat how you are making a sandwich. Prioritize forward momentum over the illusion of perfection every single time.
Implementing these changes causes a powerful shift in mindset. It removes the immense artificial pressure we place on ourselves during conversations.
It really takes a huge weight off your shoulders. And as we finish up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
A concept that builds on everything we've just discussed but stretches quite a bit beyond just language learning or public speaking.
Right. If it is fundamentally true that genuine fluency, authority, and effective communication come from prioritizing simple, clear connection over trying to sound overly complex, well, where else in your life are you artificially overcomplicating things just to sound smart?
That's a great question.
Think about your upcoming workplace presentations. Think about those massive, jargon-filled emails you spend 20 minutes writing. Think about how you argue or communicate in your personal relationships. Are you exhausting your mental CPU trying to sound like a textbook when you could simply choose to be clear?
It is a question worth examining. True mastery isn't making things complicated. True mastery is making the complex feel incredibly simple.
So the next time you feel that horrible brain freeze coming on and the buffering wheel starts spinning in your mind, take a breath, find the silence, and just keep it simple. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and we'll catch you on the next one.